relevant. But since the beginning of 2025, no player has created more big chances in the Premier League
My
than
guy,
Declan
man.
Rice. I only mentioned that because I don't know if you watched the England game, but
Hmm.
Tuchel kind of used him as a double, like a double six pivot with Lewis-Skelly. And obviously, you can, well, I hope everyone can see. Let me zoom in. You can see the numbers. What number is Rice? Number 4. And obviously, Lewis-Skelly is 23. They're kind of like in a double six. What do you make of Lewis-Skelly making his England debut and Lewis-Skelly's life so far in these 8 months? And what do you make of Rice's role in that 8 under Tuchel?
Myles Lewis-Skelly is just he is just the he's the type of midfielder that I feel like so many of us are like wanting in our midfield. He just has so many good qualities off the ball and on the ball, and I think he complements Declan really well. Um, I think he's done really well, and watching the two games that he played, especially after all the hate he was getting, he's just unfazed.
Racism.
Right. He's just unfazed and unflustered by the noise. And I think that's super important being black, playing for the English national team and also playing for Arsenal. That is a double whammy, So I think he's done really well for himself. I like the way Tuchel used the two of them because I do think Declan is much better in a double pivot. That doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to play a 4-4-2, but you need to get two players at the base. Miles was doing a little bit more of the passing between the lines and Declan was winning the ball back. It was really nice. It flowed. And it allowed Morgan Rogers and Jude to be more creative and free, which I like that. I just think Myles Lewis-Skelly is exceptional. In my opinion, he's our starting left back, and it's not really close. Just got to keep him fit. I would be starting him next season as well. He's fantastic. Declan, I've maintained that I feel like he's a 6 and we should double down on it. I don't really like this in front of the ball role that he has. I think it stunts his best qualities. So maybe Arteta needs to look at that. But he seems very hell bent on playing him at the 8, especially if he wants to get Zubamendi in. I
Hold your
just
Zubamendi foot.
I will. But yeah, I think to me, this is the first time in a long time that I haven't seen the England fans complain about being able to build up. Now I know that they didn't play against the absolute best opposition, but I think when you have a more balanced team and you don't always need to build out and have your 6 on a pivot and dropping the shoulder to receive the ball and go forward. Sometimes you just need a balanced midfield and have players doing what they do best. So Declan 100% can play the 6 as long as he has somebody playing almost like a pivot next to him. I think he thrives. I think when you have him in a single pivot by himself with 2 attacking midfielders, that doesn't suit him. So yeah, I rate it. I liked it. What did you think?
I think you're bang on the money, man. Like Lewis-Skelly, dream debut, scored. He's got that Saka thing about him in that every time he just keeps going up the levels, he just handles it. He doesn't look unfazed, and for the life has come at him fast for in these 8 months. He's done amazing. Credit to him. Declan Rice, naturally, when he's in a role that's more home to him, I know he's been for the best part of this season and last season been playing as an 8, but his bread and butter is a 6 of sorts. Now I know people talk about Arteta wants him to win the ball high up the field, or they think he can't receive it on a half turn consistently. I do think these have bases, but I don't think it's a coincidence. You play him in a position that enhances others. He mops up, wins the ball back, does all that kind of stuff. Everything else he does beyond that is a bonus. And it makes me just feel like, obviously, I don't want to say we will because there's valid claims with Lewis-Skelly being a long-term left back, and you could argue him not being a left back in the first team doesn't get him playing for England, doesn't get him first team right now. It
Mm,
doesn't get me and you arguing about, well, yes, last week, in which I must admit, even though I did agree with you, I have to be honest, I'm leaning towards your point of view now. The Lewis-Skelly and the Timber thing, it's mainly because of the England game. I was like, you know what? You've confirmed the temperament. Like, there's still the dangers, but there's that. So, white flag up in that regards. And even with Lewis-Skelly, like, unfortunately, when you speak of Lewis-Skelly, there's no way of getting away from the racism claims and all of this kind of stuff. Kind of going back to, I know he's having a laugh and a joke about England and America, but one thing, and I don't know what it is, maybe because it's just there's more people there, and I just think you lot are a bit more outgoing and personality kind of driven. I think in this country, you kind of got to play the game a bit and not speak out of turn. And the only way to kind of do that is being like Kante or Saka, not criticizing them, and you
mhm.
still get on them. I think if the English game was in America, I think these things don't happen with Lewis-Skelly, because it seems like you lot are, I don't know, one thing I rate about you lot, even with like Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James, it's like you can talk your shit, but if you talk your shit and it goes left, we can get onto you and then you kind of keep it moving. We're not like that here, but Lewis-Skelly's got it all, man. I don't know if his future will be as an 8. I think he'll be a 6. I actually want to see him get more opportunities in midfield. I also want to see him potentially even partner Declan Rice. Like, Lewis-Skelly's got it all, but I do think he can make a career at left back, and I guess we're gonna have to see, man. Like, he's
Yeah.
living the dream. Long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like his trajectory into the first team has to change the thought process of how we build the midfield moving forward. I think you have to have an idea of him moving into midfield full term at some point and getting him minutes in that position. If Arsenal, which I read the other day that they're still looking to bring in a left back, my idea would be that he'd be also a really good option in midfield. And if you have somebody like Miles, who is more of like a 6, and you have Declan that's more of like a 6, then wouldn't that inform you to maybe get somebody that's a little bit more of like an 8? I just feel like Arsenal are
Yep, the
trying to
Santi
make
region.
things they're trying to make things too hard.
Could that free up Odegaard as well?
Yeah, I think it would. I think what we miss on the left-hand side with the Granite situation is, when's the last time that we had somebody on the left-hand side that can actually evade pressure, but also ping a pass in between the lines on that left-hand side? The pass that Lewis-Skelly made to Raheem Sterling in the Carabao Cup a while
Who's
ago,
that?
to Raheem Sterling.
Quality player. Go on.
And I think Raheem then passed it to Winieri. I just feel like that opening up your body and being able to pass that ball in that space, and also being able to hit the ball from the left-hand side to the right-hand side without having to switch it to your right, is much needed. So he could solve some problems at left center mid, and also have somebody that's good off the ball. You can also use him in the 6 and then use somebody a little bit more advanced. I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we pigeonhole him into this left back role, where his qualities really would be so good for us in midfield. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm like, he's just a midfielder. I would hate for him to be stunted at left back
I'm with
in
you
that
with that,
role.
but then I question our own logic and think, just because we see that, does that mean it's the right thing? Because I still
Mhm.
maintain that. I think, especially with what you said about building long term, but then I deep it. Arteta does play the seniority thing. Like, I think Lewis-Skelly and Wanyeri would have got minutes, but we've got to be honest, the injuries and them taking their chances we've got here. Obviously, if he wasn't able to nail down this left back role, he doesn't make his England debut. He's not playing the amount of minutes he
True.
wants to. And if everything fell into place across this season in particular, even if Lewis-Skelly plays, we don't get him in midfield. And you're basically playing in midfield anyways for England, as we can see on this graphic, and obviously for Arsenal. And I just think you could lock down that left back role. Like, maybe it's a Saka thing where you pay your dues, you play where you're playing, and then when the time comes, you have that conversation and things go. And I
Would you
guess you've
prefer
got to
us
be
to
multifunctional.
not buy
Pardon
a
me?
left back?
No, 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 no. We still need it. I'm not going into that track. We need a left back. We need one. We need one. We need one. We're short there. Like, obviously, if a lot of the talking points we can get into weren't a thing, then we probably don't. But Kivior's an option there. We both know he might not leave, but his future is going to be subject to speculation. Zinni's on a decent fee, decent wages, and they'll probably try to get a fee with him on a year left. Calafiori can't stay fit, so I'm not really seeing much in that regards. Who else is there? Tierney's gone. I'm not convinced with Lewis-Skelly and Calafiori as our only left back options. I have all the faith in Lewis-Skelly, but he's young. He could get injured. They're on to you for yellow cards. Calafiori is a car crash defensively, needs to go on a crash course defensively. I think we need another left back, man. I don't know if it should be the priority. I think, God forbid, as we've seen on occasion, if someone's suspended and some people are missing, we're not that far removed from having to put Timber potentially over there and have to start messing about. Do you actually feel a left back's needed? Because I'm taking Hato who can play
I
there,
mean,
but
like I'm trying, because with Arsenal, unless
we
we
love it.
become a completely different side and a completely different team, then we know we're going to go into the summer window and something's not going to get done. And so if Miles, it has to be taken into consideration that he plays left back. If his future is in midfield, then you bring in a left back. If his future is not, and you have him as a left back now, and you have Calafiori, and you also know Timber can play on that side too in an emergency, then maybe you need to prioritize midfield and attack and go a season without getting the left back. I just don't see
Can we
how we
afford that though?
continuously buy in that particular position, which Hato will not be cheap. We know Hato will not be cheap. So you're going to be taking away from something else. And the further we get along, the more I'm thinking like, we really need to make sure we get that striker, the winger, and a midfielder. That left back, continuously buying that left back just feels
When you don't buy right, you
very.
buy again, innit? Really, I'm being a bit harsh to Calafury and all of these things, but the reality is, it feels like every season, me and you are making streams, and the left back has been brought in, a goalkeeper's been brought in, and we know there's little isms and
Mhm.
schisms. But at the end of the day, if you keep having to buy, are you buying correctly? You know, I love Tomiyasu, but he's played 6 minutes of Premier League football. I don't even know if you're going to be back in December. And it's one thing Tomiyasu getting back fit. It's another thing that man staying fit. What? So how you don't feel a left back is that vital this summer?
I think it's a way less of a priority
Out
than
of 10?
anything else. Out of anything else, I think it goes straight from the top all the way down to the back. I think the like literally in that order, the striker and the winger are the most important, then midfield, then left back, then goalkeeper, backup goalkeeper. That's literally the priority. So I'm just thinking with the emergence of a player that can play left back and center mid, how do you leverage that to make sure that you can push more funds into a position that really needs a lot of surgery? Because in my opinion, you can get away with a lot more, meaning injuries at the back, if your attack is so potent that it just scores more goals than anyone else. So if you do go through a little bit of a period where your defense isn't as solid because you have injuries, you can take that under. Right now, we really don't have that wiggle room. So yeah, I get what people are saying. I do want to know what you think about. I know this is your show, but I have to ask. What do you think
I know
about
it's
the
our
way
show.
Hato played? How do you think about Hato? Because you know he made the mistake in that first game, but he recovered. Is he even right now? Is he better than Myles Lewis-Skelly?
Yeah. Not at
What?
all aspects. Yeah. 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 I like Lewis
You
Kelly. I
think
fuck with Lewis
Hato
Kelly.
is better than Myles Lewis-Skelly?
Yep, I'm not gonna kill you for getting ripped at getting ripped in that game. You got a lot to learn, but what we're not gonna do is forget he's played 100 times for Ajax, captain, then played centre half and left back. He is very raw, and clearly when he gets caught, I think Lewis Skelly's a bit more composed on the ball than him, but in terms of the maturity I've seen in defensive aspects, I think he reads the game in defensive metrics a bit more than Lewis Skelly. Like I love Lewis Skelly's technical ability, his intelligence, clearly the way he goes into midfield and glides. But if there's 1, 2 areas he can improve, and he's improving, is following runners, it's being alert in defensive situations. Now, that's not his fault. You weren't an organic left back. I'm having that, oh man. I know we got savage for his country, but I've seen Lewis Skelly get in trouble at youth level. And that's
Mm.
actually one thing I've seen change. Because there was times Lewis Skelly would get caught on the ball, even in his day, even against. And he's actually, and that's one thing I like. He improves quickly. Go and watch. Is it Bolton or Preston? They scored one of the goals where Lewis Skelly was caught out of position. Now that happens, and it also happened against Newcastle. But one thing I like about Lewis Skelly is that happened against Newcastle. I'm sure the next game or the game after that, was in the same situation and he learned. But they're both at where I expect them to be at this age, if it makes sense. So
Yeah.
there's that. I think you made a good point about Lewis Skelly in general, and you made an even better point about how like we need to get, as dumb as it sounds in theory, because football you have to. It's like we could probably get away with certain things defensively if we were better in the offensive third, because we're kind of like the opposite. We'll try it defensively, we're solid, quote unquote. Midfield, it is what it is. If we get a chance, we bank on taking it, but we kind of know if we're not going to score, we more probably believe as Arsenal fans, we're more likely to keep a clean sheet than mash up someone else's clean sheet. So it is a very interesting dynamic, man. Like, I get it. You said in the order of striker, winger, centre mid, left back, right? See, I'm a
Um,
bit different because for me
yeah,
it's
just
striker,
right now.
centre mid, left wing, and then left back.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've
But they
spoken
all have to be
about
addressed this
midfield.
summer.
Midfield is such a crazy puzzle because Arteta likes all these players that play different positions, but
Love
ultimately,
for the
like
super chat. Go
with
on.
Odegaard playing like this more deeper role, do you need another number 10? Does it make sense to spend a lot on a number 10 that we know is not going to start? Because that's the conversation that I was having on Mo's channel. They were screaming, you need a number 10, you need a number 10. And I'm
That
like,
Nepan guy, innit?
I was like, I get that, But if Arteta is looking at Zubamendi and you bring in Zubamendi to play the 6, no one of Odegaard, Declan Rice, or Zubamendi will go to the bench. That's just the truth. They will be the starting midfield. So the number 10 is going to be somebody that comes in every once in a while, like Fabio and Emil did. Is that the best use of our resources? I'm not 100% sure because
You
you
got
have
Ethan there
there.
as well. He's gonna play
Yeah,
a
because
couple
you
of
have
roles, a bit
Ethan.
like Lewis-Skelly.
100%. So I'm just thinking like, we have 2 starting positions that need to be addressed: wing, and striker up front, and then the midfielder. The
There's
midfield
no maybe. Midfield is of
it's
great
gonna be a
importance. Same
6.
with
It's gonna be a 6, and I know that like
yeah,
that's
because Rice. Yeah, you're right. I believe you.
yeah. So if it was up to me, it would be just I would let Jorginho and Partey go, and then Declan Rice and MLS would be my 6 options, and I would go get an 8, a true 8, a Reinders,